Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon Sidereal astrology forecast for Monday, July 20th, 2020. All right, so time of new beginnings, a fresh new start for the lunar month in the constellation of Cancer. If you were expecting me to say Leo just then, be sure to check out the link down below. We are using the actual size of the constellations, which does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so Cancer the Crab, time of now this lunar month of developing a side of ourselves that is essentially feeling based and protective, right? Cancer is about creating that protective environment for ourselves so that we can access the feelings and the things more important to us on an intrinsic level, but also to help others as well. Very helpful, caring, nurturing type of quality Cancer can be when we sort of shift that protective nature to those we love and those around us. So great to cultivate this. And with this new moon, we do have oppositions up to the outer planets that have been conjunct this year: Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. So really a status check of the past 6 months. What are some of the things that have been restructuring this year, both in the literal structures and quite possibly also with your perception and possibilities and potentials. This has been Pluto restructuring both Saturn and Jupiter. Now a great time of doing a status check, maybe making some shifts and pivots along the yearly energy. All right, along with this, a trine to Neptune, so maybe some ease with some receptivity. So let's go and take a look at all this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here is the chart for this new moon. So the new moon will be on Monday, July 20th. The exact time of the new moon will be at 13:37 Eastern time of the Americas, if you do want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world. But for all intents and purposes, this new moon will be for the surrounding days around Monday. And again, this is in the constellation Cancer. If you were expecting me to say Leo, check out that link down below, because as you can see here, we are using the actual size of the constellations, which unfortunately in mainstream astrology, they use an even 30 degrees for all of the constellations, but in truth, they are different sizes. And so this form of astrology does take that into account, and it does change the locations of these new moons and planetary placements. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. The new moon at the very bottom of the astrological chart in the constellation of Cancer the Crab. Cancer represents our roots. Ancients have called it the gateway of the soul, where we've entered this life from. And so it's all about these roots. And by roots can also mean our feelings, emotions, our soul, the inner realms of life. And so it's a really good time now of setting some new intentions for this lunar month to further develop this side of ourselves. The side that is attuned to our inner feelings, inner guidance, is connected to our feelings and emotions and the past and things important to us on a, you could say, intrinsic level, right? And so with this also comes the importance of creating a protective environment. Cancer the Crab, which has also been seen as a turtle or a beetle, but still the same constellation dealing with that protective shell. It's very important that in order to connect to those intrinsic things in our life, that we create a protective environment in order to do that. So also great with this new moon to see how we can further develop the side that does want to create that protective environment for ourselves, maybe such as through home, in our private life, right? This kind of protective thing, but also for others as well. Cancer in its highest expression is very caring, very helpful, very nurturing, because it's all about creating that protective environment for those close to us. Could be family, could be very close relationships, friendships. It's all about connecting on that more deeper emotional level and creating a protective environment in order to do that. So great way of setting intentions. Now, of course, the new moon is the lowest energy phase of the cycle. So it's a really good time to just kind of sit with the energies and see what starts to come out from this going into next week or going into the rest of this week, right? So what are some maybe new intentions we can set to create that protective environment for ourselves and others, to maybe rejoin up with things we consider our home or family or our roots in that sense, get into some reflective energy as well. Really good way of setting intentions, but quite literally probably some new things starting to emerge from this type of energy, both for the lunar month and you could also say for the solar year. With that being said, we do have a very important aspect with this new moon, which is the oppositions to those outer planets that have been conjunct this year, particularly Saturn, Pluto, which was the restructuring we saw that got activated from late January into February of this year, and then more recently, Pluto and Jupiter. So Pluto, the planet of restructuring and transformation, has been aspecting two very important planets. Saturn, the planet of structure. So this has been the restructuring, right? Pluto transforming our structures, our foundations, both collectively and personally. But with Jupiter, Pluto's been, you could say, restructuring our perspective, our perception, our belief systems, our outlook on life, right? And what's possible. And especially with this conjunction in the actual constellation of Sagittarius, which represents very much those Jupiterian things of, in this case, transforming those beliefs so that we can see what is possible, right? And expand those perceptions, because the more we expand our perception, the more we can allow in, see more opportunities, gain more wisdom, learn more, access more of our adventurous side and our freeing side. And this particular part of Cancer opposes up to this particular part of Sagittarius. So usually with new moons, you don't deal with oppositions like you do during full moons. But in this case, we are. And in this case, it's important to find the balance between these two very different energies. In this case, with Cancer, how can we further connect to the, again, feeling-based elements of life, which is water, and it's also protective, but at the same time be willing to expand our perception, get into some of that fire, get into some freedom, some open-mindedness, maybe even some adventurousness, right? That free-spirited energy, really good to develop with balance while we do connect to this more emotional and protective energy at this time. Now, the strongest opposition to this new moon is with Saturn in particular. And so I think with this new beginning, to see how can we really, again, do this status check. What has transformed and changed since the beginning of this year, both personally and collectively? And how's it going? And really seeing how far we've come in a sense, either through our own personal development or in our literal lives. And seeing maybe what shifts and changes do we want to make right now that might, with Saturn, require patience, discipline, responsibility, perseverance, right? All these sort of grounded long-term energies. How can we further develop this for the next 6 months to continue to move forward anything that has been restructuring, either quite literally or with our perceptions, with this stellium here, this three-way conjunction between these three very important outer planets. So great time of doing that. Status check, seeing what shifts and changes do we want to make from the yearly sense as we now continue this new monthly new beginning with the constellation of protective Cancer. Now, we do have a trine up to Neptune, which is quite supportive. It's a very minor trine, but still nonetheless, I think with this new beginning, there's probably going to be some ease with receptivity. Probably a little bit easier to be accepting for how things are, seeing a little bit more that things are happening in divine timing. It's a great time for supportive things that require a bit of maybe more receptive action, especially with Mars in Pisces at the moment. Seeing where the current of life is and putting energy towards that. Maybe a bit easier to get some peaceful time or do things more important to us on a spiritual and soul level. This is an easier energy, very supportive with this new beginning. All right, so those are the two most important things with the new moon. No major aspects going exact here on Monday, except for that exact opposition up to Saturn with the, in this case, sun, but with the new moon that we talked very much about. Again, that importance of seeing how far we've come with patience, discipline, responsibility, and how can we maybe make some shifts and changes with incorporating for the next 6 months that side of ourselves. Going into tomorrow, we do have Mercury squaring up to Chiron, nothing major, but as the day unfolds, and especially tomorrow, if there is anything you do want to challenge yourself with that might be facing some wounds or doing some healing, especially if it involves your mind or communication in some way. This has actually been dragged out through all of Mercury's retrograde period recently, so it's been the past couple months of this kind of energy. But finishing it up, anything that involves healing, particularly that either uses your mind, such as picking up the book, or maybe some things with communication, right? Could be healing and therapeutic. So anything like that you want to challenge yourself with or finalize from the past couple months, that's great to incorporate into tomorrow. All right, but the most important thing here today is definitely the new beginning, the new moon. Do give it time. Go ahead and use this time approaching Monday to do some clearing, right? We're still ending the previous cycle. It is the lowest energy phase of the cycle. We do want to create some space for the new beginnings around the corner, which again do take time going into next week. But nonetheless, great time of setting intentions. How can we develop this, again, root-based, feeling-based, and protective side of ourselves to further develop this lunar month and see what new things arise from this, as well as how can we do a status check with the yearly energies of the restructuring of both the, let's say our own personal systems, but also our own personal perceptions, and how can we further develop that moving forward with patience and more of a long-term perspective with Saturn, and maybe noticing a little bit of synergy and support with the more receptive side of ourselves with that trine up to Neptune. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more videos such as this one, and I'll see you all next time for the next forecast. Take care.